Hey everybody, thanks for coming. Thanks to Drew and Rebecca and ETC for inviting me, and also for hosting this great symposium. I think it's really important. Increasingly in our culture and museums in particular, we deal in the economy of experiences, right? So it's especially poignant, I think, to be investigating this topic of transformational experiences with everyone here today. I'm super thankful to be a part of it. My name is Jeff Inscho, and I am the manager of digital engagement at the Andy Warhol Museum, located here in Pittsburgh. Prior to joining the Warhol last November, I also had positions at the Carnegie Museum of Art and the Mattress Factory. So I guess you could say that museums are kind of in my blood. My background is not really technology. My formal training is in media relations and PR. But I think the most impactful background element to me is my informal training in punk rock and hacker culture. I started my undergrad in the late 90s when the web was kind of nascent and in its infancy. And I started hacking websites together to promote my band, and kind of stuck with code ever since, and kind of just kept going. So the professional interest for me here lies in the intersection of art and technology and experiences. So naturally, working at the Warhol is a natural fit for me. So as you may or may not know, the Andy Warhol Museum is located over on the north side. And it's one of the 4 Carnegie Museums of Pittsburgh. We have the Museum of Art, Museum of Natural History, and the Carnegie Science Center, in addition to the Warhol. Andy Warhol was born here in Pittsburgh in 1928. He grew up in Oakland and attended Carnegie Tech, now CMU, before moving to New York City, where he spent the majority of his artistic career. Now, the Warhol Museum encompasses 7 floors of exhibition space, and it's organized chronologically. So visitors start at the top on the 7th floor and move from Warhol's childhood and early works, work their way down the museum, and progress along with his artistic practice and growth. The Warhol is the largest museum in the United States dedicated to one single artist. So the museum's mission is to be the global gatekeeper for Andy Warhol's legacy. And this, kind of in this transformative time, this digital time, that's increasingly means embracing digital and emerging technologies, right? And connecting Warhol's work and ethos with our visitors and our audiences, both on-site and online. Andy Warhol, as you know, was a puzzle. He was an enigma. He created many more questions with his artwork than he created answers, as most great artists do, right? Warhol was playful. His wit and intellect were very astute. And he was infatuated with celebrity. He was a master of public relations and publicity. And he didn't shy away from the intersection of art and commerce. He exploited it. So if our mission at the museum and our mandate is to be this global gatekeeper for Warhol's legacy, everything we do institutionally must be in this spirit. All activities, including my work in the digital space, should be molded in Warhol's ethos. So in order to fully understand our strategies around interpretive media at the museum, I think we just take a real quick crash course in Warhol's work. This is not an art history session, but it's important to know generally his work and the objects that we hold at the museum. Warhol's probably best known for his 2D screen-printed work, portraiture, use of vibrant color, celebrity subjects, instantly recognizable, right? Even for those outside of the art world. Repetition is a recurring theme, as seen in these portraits here. That's Mick Jagger up on the right-hand side. He didn't avoid controversy, as I mentioned before, or politics. Warhol melded his signature style with the scale of totalitarian propaganda to address the cult of personality surrounding Chinese ruler Mao Zedong. And Warhol's practice evolved over time to include video and installation art and happenings, these event-based works. Exploding Plastic Inevitable here was a series of multimedia events organized by Warhol between 1966 and 1967, featuring musical performances by the Velvet Underground and Nico, screenings of Warhol films, and dancing and performances by regulars of Warhol's factory, the New York studio in which he worked. And one of the museum's most popular and illegally photographed artworks, Silver Clouds. So the museum is also home to Warhol's comprehensive archive, which includes more than 600 time capsules. Now, these are it's a serial work spanning a 30-year period from the early 60s to his death in '87. Time capsules consist of 610 containers. They're mainly standard size cardboard boxes. You see them lined up here. And he used these boxes to manage a bewildering amount of quantity of material that routinely passed through his life, right? Photographs, newspapers, magazines, fan letters, business and personal correspondence, artwork, source material for artwork, exhibition catalogs, telephone messages, everything. What he did is he took these, kept a box under his desk, threw stuff in the box, sealed it up, sent it to storage, and he did this for 30 years. And we have all this stuff. So kind of knowing and understanding the breadth of assets that we have at the museum, the personality of our namesake artist, the legacy we must carry forward, and the market, right, for destination-based culture. Where do we begin with all this? And I think this quote is a really good place to start when approaching how we engage visitors and audiences around the work of Warhol. So digital and emerging media, they present opportunities, as you know, to create delightful and magical experiences. The promise is great. However, the landscape shifts really fast, as you know, and cultural institutions like museums work with much limited resources compared to our for-profit counterparts. So we just can't chase tech fads. We can't chase digital du jour. We have to be really strategic. We have to remain focused and vigilant in pursuit of our mission as a museum. So we need a Warhol-infused digital strategy to kind of guide us. So we wrote one. Over the past few months, I've been working closely with museum leadership and each department throughout the museum to draft a digital strategy for the next couple years for the museum. The document's designed to be kind of a living, organic document that can evolve with us as technology shifts and impacts the world around us, right? So in it, we've intentionally left tactical activities as open-ended as possible. Each section of the strategy closes with strategy and action, and this is kind of an area dedicated to projects, initiatives, programs that tactically meet the strategic objectives of the museum. And while this approach gives us the freedom to be opportunistic with tactics, it also leaves us publicly accountable for maintaining momentum and progress, right? That is super exciting and it's super scary because we have to act on this. We can't just publish a strategy and say, yay, we published a strategy and not do anything about it. So finally, and I think most significantly, we've decided to open source this document. We're using plain text and Git workflow and publishing it openly on GitHub. And that basically means that all revisions and updates to this strategy are logged and published. So you can see how it started and how it's evolved over time. And the document itself can become this kind of multi-pronged, collaborative work. So we've released it under a Creative Commons license, which means individuals and institutions can use it, adapt it, distribute it to their needs, just as long as they make their derivative work accessible under a similar license. So I think over the next few years we're going to be intensely focused on just a handful, a few strategic thrusts. First, experiences and engagement. As I mentioned at the top of the session, museums deal in the economy of experiences. It's our duty to engage visitors around the objects and scholarship that takes place at the Warhol. We craft our experiences with care, and they're intellectually fulfilling, emotionally stimulating, and leave visitors craving more, right? We want them to come back. Narratives and access. That's another strategic thrust. Digital technologies provide new ways of sharing stories and inviting participation through transparent, open access. In the coming years, we're going to work to continue to increase operational transparency, such as publishing a digital strategy, and also access to the museum's collection in compelling narratives. Organizational adaptation. This is a big one. So we're living and working in a time of digital transformation. Emerging platforms and technologies impact absolutely everything we do. And if the museum is to thrive in the digital age, it's important that all staff become comfortable and proficient with the new tools and workflows that emerging technologies afford. We can't keep digital in a silo of my department. We have to raise the entire ship of the institution. And a lot of that is sharing knowledge, sharing skill sets, diffusing the digital through the institution. Finally, financial solvency. So much like the way technology is transforming the way we experience things, it's disrupting conventional business models. The cultural sector, in many ways, is shouldering the brunt of this. Museums and performing arts institutions are struggling to adapt in the wake of small budgets and limited resources. So we recognize that, and in order to maintain our status as the global gatekeeper of Warhol's legacy, we're going to do what we can in the digital space to make sure that our bottom line is solvent, and digital certainly has an impact on that. But for the purpose of today's session, I think we'll focus on experiences and engagement, because that's what we're here to talk about. How am I doing on time? About halfway? So, between 1964 and 1966, Warhol created almost 500 screen tests. You see them here. And the screen tests were of famous people visiting his studio and anonymous visitors. Some famous people that did screen tests are Salvador Dali, Dennis Hopper, Edie Sedgwick, Bob Dylan. So basically what he would do is he would sit the subject down, and with a stationary silent Bolex camera loaded with a 100-foot roll of film, sitters were instructed to sit still for about 3 minutes, the length of time it took the film to roll through the camera. And then so he later projected these screen tests in slow motion, which kind of extended their duration from 3 minutes to longer, and it created this kind of dreamlike stillness. And during the 60s, the films were rarely shown in public, but were often just shown in his studio, in the factory for fun. So at the museum, in a gallery reminiscent of the factory, we invite our visitors to create their own screen tests, utilizing a computer touchscreen, movable backdrop, and a specially modified vintage camera that you can see there, also with visitor-controlled studio lights. And so upon completion, the visitor screen test is transformed digitally from real-time to slow motion, pushed to the internet, where it is available on its own webpage. And so the visitor can then, the visitor gets an email from us, they can share it on social and also with their friends. And to date, we've uploaded nearly 30,000 visitor-created videos. And you can view a selection of them at warholscreentest.com. The cool thing about this project, though, too, is we've created multiple units. So we have one at our museum. We also have 3 others that we loan out to other museums doing Warhol exhibitions. So it has become, instead of a revenue, technology a lot of times becomes revenue sucks, right? We try to figure out how to make it a revenue generator as well. So we have 3 touring units that we send out all over the world. The next one is going to South Korea in a week. And so most first-time visitors to the Warhol and newcomers to kind of Warhol's history are really surprised to learn that the artist had such a prolific body of work in film and video. So as part of the recent 20th anniversary of the museum, we rehung the entire museum. And we've created a film, video, and television gallery on our 4th floor, which allows visitors to the museum to come in, take their time, and get a taste of just how prolific he was in this space. So it contains 12 stations, as you can see here. Guests can view more than 100 individual works created by Warhol on each of the stations. And it's the station allows for instantaneous streaming and scrubbing through hours and hours and hours of Warhol's footage. So we used high-definition multi-touch displays and kind of presented the works, as you can see on the right here, in a very simple interface that we kind of molded it after iPad interaction. So you can swipe, and the UI and the UX is very consistent with what people are very familiar with. And the physical design of the space is super important. To kind of create a successful design, we kind of studied what types of people come in would be using this. Families, scholars. You can see this bank of units on the right-hand side has like a little area you can take notes and write if you're a scholar. They all have headphones. We also included jacks, so if someone wants to use their own headphones, they can. Try to make it as flexible as possible for all the audience types that are going to be visiting the museum. So Warhol died on February 22nd, 1987, and he's buried at St. John the Baptist Byzantine Catholic Cemetery here in Pittsburgh. And so hundreds of devotees every year make pilgrimages to his website, or to his, not his website, to his grave. And a lot of times they bring souvenirs. They bring Campbell's soup cans, and they bring bottles of Coke, and they leave them there. And so we realized this, and we decided that we want to honor that by creating a live feed. So we have a camera on this space 24/7, available worldwide at this URL, and it is amazing to just, occasionally log on there, and you'll see artists making work there. Just yesterday there were 3 or 4 looked like younger age people just kind of chilling, being very, just visiting his grave. There's an Easter egg hunt every Easter there. It's pretty amazing. So just another way of kind of extending this legacy and carrying this legacy forward. Very simple idea technology-wise. So while he's best known for his analog work, it's not a secret he was interested in digital technology, and he experimented with them. So most of Warhol's digital experiments took place in the mid-'80s in partnership with Commodore, which commissioned him to appear at a product launch for the Amiga 1000, and use the device to create one piece of artwork that the company could use in advertising. And so because Warhol's contract with Commodore basically specified that one hard copy piece of artwork would be created, all of the digital experiments and source files remained in Warhol's property. And so for nearly 30 years, these Amiga discs sat in our archive. Nobody knew what was on them. The technology had advanced so far that we couldn't read them. And so just last year, in partnership with the Museum of Art and CMU's Studio for Creative Inquiry, we reverse engineered those disks and accessed the files. And so this new born digital work really inspired some conversations, some great conversations among museum staff about how best to present these digital experiments to visitors to the museum. Like, obviously we shouldn't print them out and hang them. Like, what do we do? So everyone quickly agreed that if we could pull it off, displaying the files on the creation device would be the most appropriate and authentic for the experience. So that's what we've done. Over the past few months, we've been working to create an Amiga-based interactive that visitors can actually operate to explore a selection of 10 origin files created by Warhol and his assistants as they learn to use a computer in the mid-'80s. So we started by sourcing an original Amiga 1000 and then reverse engineering it to figure out how to make it work from both a software and exhibition-grade hardware perspective. So the shell and the innards have been modified to allow for constant ongoing usage, but all of the 1980s details remain, as you can see. The mouse is super jumpy, doesn't track tightly, files open slowly. But the authenticity of the operating experience, I think, goes a really long way in conveying to visitors just how blunt and raw and primitive digital tools were back then when he was making this work. So this is version 1.0 of the Amiga Interactive. It's, in my opinion, an object of technological beauty. Unfortunately for us, it's shipping out to Korea. Or just shipped out to Korea, actually, for a multi-venue tour that lasts through 2016. However, we're already working on version 2 of the Amiga, and the next iteration will include some cool participatory features. Users will be able to capture an image of themselves, manipulate the image with GraphicCraft software, which is what Warhol used, or GraphicCraft-like software. And then share their Warhol-inspired Amiga creation with the world. And so that unit is scheduled to make its debut later this year here in our galleries in Pittsburgh, and it will be its permanent home. So that's a kind of a great segue into our plans for the road ahead. Our main priority over the next few years is going to be executing on our digital strategy with innovative tactics that fulfill those strategic thrusts that I went over before. We have some really exciting projects underway currently. I personally believe, though, the museum's biggest opportunity in the digital space lies in the structured data of our collection. And specifically developer-friendly access to that structured data, flexible access. So we're thinking really hard about what a robust museum API might look like, and kind of kicking around questions with which we could potentially interrogate that API. I think we're at a really exciting point in the museum's digital history. We have a solid foundation, but we're really just getting started. So 5 minutes, that's perfect. I hope there may be some questions or some discussion. Everything I said is up at that link. You can hit me up at Twitter or email, or we can let's chat. Anybody have any questions or ideas? Or, no? Yeah.
We do a lot of work with the Fred Rogers Center, and one of the things that they do with his archives that are very helpful are around the technology is really kind of take things that he's written or that are in the archives or that he had said and kind of put them into place with kind of current conversation. Mm-hmm. And I don't, was Warhol a prolific writer? Do you have sort of, kind of excerpts from what he is saying about technology that you share?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, he was. He was a documentarian. Mm-hmm. So there's the Warhol Diaries book. He kept diaries. He kept notes. And we try to. Part of my role at the museum also is to is to lead strategy for social and online kind of dialogue around this stuff. So we always do like Warhol quotes and try to tie them to what's happening in the world. And it's pretty amazing like how those connections can be made with his philosophy and his ethos to events that are transpiring now, years and years after he's passed.
I think all of his work is discovered. I mean, he probably gave stuff to people.
I don't know. I mean, that would be a question for the curatorial department, but I think that's an interesting idea to think about. You know, he created these works, and as you know, repetition was a big part. So there are many Elizabeth Taylors, there are many Jackie O's, and they could, I think, would be interesting to start to see where in the world these objects are. If they're not in our collection, where are they? And start to really visualize that. Maybe it's across time and space, or map, or timeline, whatever. And that's why the structured data component of all this is really important, because we need to be able to access that and ask questions of that data so that we can tell those stories.
Yeah, otherwise, you have to keep it fresh, like, because people visit all the time.
Yeah.
And they want it to be a little bit different, I think, all the time.
Yep.
So I have the Warhol iPad app. Do you guys have anything else new coming up? Or?
Yeah, we're shipping a mobile project this summer. I can't get into too many details of it, but it's designed to be a gallery and outside the museum experience. So yeah, it will be this summer, probably August.
Very cool.
Are the time capsules available online or ability to view them?
Again, that's something this summer we're going to be launching our online collection. We're starting with the art objects and scaling out to the time capsules, because as you can imagine, just the volume of cataloging that needs to take place around that. You know, there are candy bar wrappers, so we need. it's pretty wild. But yeah, our intention is to get all that stuff online.
They haven't been cataloged yet, are you saying that?
Well, they're working on it, yeah. I mean, they're still, most of them have been opened, I believe, in catalog, but there are still some that are sealed. So it's a work in progress. But yeah, our intention is to get all that stuff online, make it as easy as possible for viewers to interact with, but also developers to build stuff out of.
Yeah, I follow the Warhol Museum on Facebook, and whenever you're opening a time capsule, you post that you're doing it today.
Yeah, we do events around it. So like every couple months, we'll have a unboxing. It's called unboxing or out of the box in our theater. And so we open the time capsule, and we learn what's in there, and the audience learns what's in there too. Letters, just awesome stuff. So I think that's time. So I'll be around if you want to chat or hit me up. Thanks, guys.